As of June 25, 2026, a new battle is taking shape in Washington. But this one is not being fought with missiles, drones, or fighter jets. It is being fought in congressional hearing rooms, on cable news networks, across social media platforms, and inside the minds of millions of Americans asking a simple question. How much should the nation pay for war? President Donald Trump has officially asked Congress for nearly $88 billion in emergency funding tied to the recent conflict with Iran, support for struggling farmers, and efforts to combat a growing Ebola threat. The request arrives at a moment when the country is exhausted from months of geopolitical tensions, rising economic pressures, and fierce political division. Supporters argue the funding is necessary to protect national security and maintain military readiness. Critics say it represents yet another costly chapter in a conflict many Americans never wanted in the first place. And now, Congress faces one of the most politically explosive spending debates of Trump's second term. This is the story of the massive funding request, the war behind it, the people affected by it, and the political showdown that could reshape Washington in the months ahead. The story begins months earlier. When tensions between the United States and Iran escalated into open military confrontation, few observers predicted how expensive the conflict would ultimately become. What initially appeared to be a limited operation gradually expanded into a 4-month campaign involving missile strikes, drone warfare, intelligence operations, naval deployments, cyber activity, and extensive logistical support. The conflict dominated headlines around the world. Images of missile launches lit up television screens. Military analysts spent countless hours discussing strategy. Politicians debated whether military action was justified. Families with loved ones serving overseas watched every development with anxiety. As the fighting continued, costs accumulated rapidly. Every missile launched carried a price tag. Every deployment required fuel, equipment, maintenance, and personnel support. Every military operation generated expenses that taxpayers would eventually be asked to cover. Now that bill has arrived. And it is enormous. President Trump formally submitted a request for nearly $88 billion in additional spending. The largest portion of the package is directed toward defense. More than $67 billion would go directly to the Pentagon. At first glance, that number alone is staggering. But the details reveal just how extensive the military costs have become. The administration wants $21 billion specifically for munitions. That money would replenish missile stockpiles depleted during the Iran conflict. Military planners have repeatedly warned that modern warfare consumes weapons at extraordinary rates. Advanced missiles that take years to manufacture can be expended in a matter of days during high-intensity operations. According to defense officials, rebuilding these inventories has become a top priority. The proposal also includes more than $17 billion for military operations. Another $1.7 billion would support readiness efforts. An additional $1.5 billion would help cover fuel expenses generated by military deployments. The package extends beyond traditional battlefield spending. More than $2 billion is allocated for drones. Over $5 billion would support cybersecurity initiatives and autonomous technologies. Roughly $12 billion would fund classified programs whose details remain hidden from public view. Taken together, the proposal reflects a military establishment preparing not only for the conflict that just occurred but also for future confrontations that could emerge in an increasingly unstable world. Yet the request arrives at a difficult political moment. The war itself remains controversial. Many Americans continue to question whether the conflict was necessary. Some lawmakers argue it was never legally authorized. Others maintain it was essential for national security. Those disagreements have not faded with the signing of a recent memorandum of understanding between American and Iranian officials. If anything, they have intensified. Many Democrats have already signaled strong opposition to the spending package. For critics of the war, approving tens of billions of dollars in additional funding would amount to endorsing a conflict they fundamentally oppose. Progressive lawmakers have argued that resources should instead be directed toward healthcare, education, infrastructure, and housing. Some have pointed to rising living costs as evidence that domestic needs deserve greater attention than overseas military operations. Republicans face challenges of their own.